Terrifying discovery in ancient tomb leaves. Scientists speechless. The mystery remains unsolved. You've probably heard stories about ancient tombs before, but have you ever stopped to wonder what might truly be resting beneath that layer of earth? A place where time seems to have frozen, yet it hides spine-chilling secrets that have left even seasoned scientists speechless? Welcome to Ancient History, the channel where thousand-year-old mysteries come to light, frame by frame. Today, we're about to open a long-forgotten chapter of the past and step into the eerie world of ancient tombs, where every stone, every coffin, carries a chilling tale. You think mummies just lie there silently? Well, yes, they do lie still, but the expressions on their faces look like they're screaming something at us. Some have wide-open eyes filled with terror. Some coffins contain objects that, to this day, scientists still can't confidently identify. And at some point, you just might find yourself saying, "No way!" just like the experts did when they first laid eyes on these artifacts. Is this all just coincidence? Or could it be evidence that a once highly advanced civilization was buried and forgotten forever? If you're someone who thrives on curiosity, who loves diving into stories that are both strange and a little unsettling, rest assured, you've come to the right place. Get ready, because today's journey will take you from one surprise to the next. So, are you ready? If you are, let's dive into our very first tomb right now. Mysterious remains found in a 4,000-year-old waterlogged coffin. Imagine one fine day you're digging a pond on a golf course and suddenly you hit a prehistoric coffin. How would you react? Sounds like a joke, right? But no, this actually happened at a regular golf course in England, not in an Indiana Jones movie. The story begins on September 10, 2021, when historic England revealed details about a remarkable discovery that shocked archaeologists and history enthusiasts alike, a 4,000-year-old coffin uncovered 3 years earlier. Back in July 2018, Dr. Hugh Wilmot was supervising an excavation of an Anglo-Saxon burial site in Lincolnshire, northeastern England, when a local conservation officer told him about a potentially more interesting find. At Tetney Golf Club, a local golf course, workers using a giant excavator to dig a small pond unexpectedly uncovered a rare prehistoric coffin containing the skeleton of a man. Specifically, the workers digging the pond at Tetney Golf Club, England, stumbled upon a 4,000-year-old waterlogged coffin holding the remains of a man whom archaeologists identified as someone of high social status. When Dr. Wilmot, an archaeologist and senior lecturer in historical European archaeology at the University of Sheffield, UK, arrived at the golf course the next day, he encountered what he described as an absolute mess. About 12 feet underground, the team found a waterlogged burial site and an exposed coffin broken into many pieces. Dr. Wilmot said he quickly realized that he and his team would have to act fast to carry out a rescue and recovery operation to prevent further damage to the coffin. That summer was extremely hot. Once exposed to air, the coffin wood would deteriorate very quickly. The coffin's 4,000-year lifespan suddenly boiled down to just days, he explained. The wooden coffin measured about 10 feet by 3 feet. Inside lay the skeleton of a man, buried alongside an axe. Archaeologists determined that the coffin was hollowed out from an oak tree trunk. The deceased was laid on a bed of cypress or yew leaves before being sealed with the remaining part of the oak trunk. These burial customs were reserved for high-ranking individuals during the Bronze Age. Dr. Hugh Wilmot, leading the research team, explained, "The organic materials were well preserved due to the wet, oxygen-free conditions inside the hollow tree trunk. This could provide us insights into the types of trees selected to cushion the body, and even the time of year this man was buried." This coffin is one of about 65 known from England. After spending a year in cold storage, it was transferred to the York Archaeological Trust for further preservation. Alongside the remains was a perfectly preserved axe with a stone head and wooden handle. When archaeologists saw this axe inside the 4,000-year-old coffin, they were stunned. They could hardly believe what they were looking at. The axe is extremely rare, especially because its wooden handle survived 4,000 years underground. It's one of only 12 such axes known in England, and archaeologists believe it was more a symbol of power than a practical tool. To explain why the coffin was waterlogged yet still so well preserved, experts said that rising sea levels and coastal flooding eventually covered the grave and burial mound with a thick layer of sediment. Coupled with the undeniable durability of oak wood, This helped preserve the coffin. The ancient coffin and axe were placed in temporary cold storage to stabilize them, while archaeologists gathered as much information as possible before conservation work began, a process that might slightly alter their appearance. Dr. Wilmot added that the burial shows the man was an important figure in his community. To make a wooden coffin this heavy is a complex task. The gravel mound covering the grave required many people's effort, not just family members, and the axe was very likely a ceremonial object, a symbol of authority. Historic England invested nearly $70,000, about $97,000 USD, in the conservation effort. The coffin was transported to the York Archaeological Trust, where preservation is expected to take another 2 years due to its large size and weight. Ian Panter, head of the York Archaeological Trust, said conservators are still deciding whether to try to piece the coffin parts back together. He noted one end of the coffin is about 8 feet long and weighs half a ton. The entire coffin measures approximately 10 feet long and 3 feet wide. The 4,000-year-old coffin and the axe will eventually be displayed at the Collection, an art and archaeology museum in Lincolnshire, not far from the golf course. The man's remaining bones will be carefully cared for, but likely won't be displayed. His bones reveal he was about 5 feet 7 inches tall, quite tall for that era, and probably died in his late 30s or early 40s. The time and effort invested in his burial indicate a society with a hierarchy focused on certain individuals. What do you think? Isn't this a fascinating discovery? A 6 feet 4 inches tall puppet in an ancient Chinese tomb baffles experts. In December 1978, according to the Chinese lunar calendar, something unusual happened in Lixi, Shandong Province, China. People from all over suddenly flocked to the area, turning the once quiet village into a bustling hub. It turned out that local villagers had accidentally discovered 2 ancient tombs while digging soil in their fields. Upon hearing the news, the village chief contacted the relevant authorities, and a team of archaeologists rushed to the site. During the excavation, the experts found tomb number 2 to be quite extraordinary. Unlike typical stone tombs, this was a wooden tomb with a heavy coffin. Everyone speculated about who might be buried inside. To everyone's surprise, the occupant of this tomb was actually a life-sized puppet. Later excavations uncovered several artifacts made of bronze, lacquer, iron, and jade within the tomb. After thorough examination, experts concluded that this burial site dated back to the Middle to late Western Han Dynasty. Once the excavation was complete, the archaeological team carefully transported the puppet to a research institute for detailed measurement and study. The puppet stands 6 feet 4 inches tall, taller than an average person, and is remarkably well preserved. Only the wooden panel on its stomach showed slight decay, but this did not affect the overall quality. The puppet was constructed from 13 wooden strips forming the torso and limbs. Its components closely mimic human bones. The movable joints are connected using traditional mortise and tenon techniques, a fundamental woodworking method allowing the puppet to perform various motions. The puppet's head was carved from a single piece of wood. Features such as the ears, eyes, mouth, and nose were intricately carved with lifelike detail. Interestingly, the head even has a shallow groove measuring about 0.8 inches deep and 0.2 inches wide, running along the hairline. Experts speculate that it may originally have been fitted with real hair. Some archaeologists believe these puppets were even dressed in clothing when buried. But what exactly was this large puppet used for? That remains a difficult question to answer. After careful analysis, experts have proposed several theories. The first theory suggests the puppet served as a commemorative object. The tomb's occupant may have been a highly skilled puppeteer during that era. To honor his contributions, the family might have created this giant puppet as a funerary companion for the afterlife. However, questions arose because no strings were found on the puppet, which seems contradictory for a puppet prop. Some argue that the absence of strings makes sense since they might have tangled during transport, complicating burial. The second theory proposes that the puppet functioned as a tomb guardian. Because its joints are movable, archaeologists cannot determine its original posture. But at 6 feet 4 inches tall, it resembles a strong, tall human figure and could have symbolized a protector of the tomb's occupant. Still, using a puppet as a tomb guardian is unprecedented, so this hypothesis requires further research. The third theory holds that the puppet was part of burial customs. After all, puppets were used in many different occasions. Experts believe such a large puppet could have been a tool in local rituals at the time, possibly used in exorcism ceremonies and then buried with the deceased. Yet how such a large puppet could have been performed with remains another puzzle, one that continues to intrigue experts. Though each theory has merit, the puppet's true purpose remains an unsolved mystery. Nonetheless, the excavation of this puppet has provided valuable insights into the life, development, and evolution of puppet art in ancient China. The remains of a woman and a massive treasure of gold in an ancient Siberian king's tomb. In the Valley of the Kings, not in Egypt as we usually hear, but in the Valley of the Kings of the ancient Scythians, deep within Siberian territory, archaeologists have just discovered an elaborately constructed tomb of a Scythian king, along with numerous precious artifacts such as gold, silver, and jewelry. What astonished scientists the most was the presence of a young woman buried beside the king. This woman was not only laid to rest next to the king's body, but was also covered with countless gold and silver treasures and jewelry, clear signs that she was no ordinary person. The burial location and the high-quality grave goods all reveal that she once held a very high status, possibly the king's official wife or his most favored consort. However, the strange part is that no one knows why she died. While the king's skeletal analysis showed he died of prostate cancer, a natural death in ancient times, the woman's remains showed no clear signs of cause of death. It was a sudden death with no evidence of violence or illness. Archaeologists suspect she may have been poisoned as part of an ancient funeral ritual to accompany the king into the afterlife. This chilling suspicion grew stronger when the research team discovered as many as 35 other sets of remains within the tomb area, believed to be the king's entourage. Among them were men, women, children, and even 14 horses, a formation resembling a royal palace retinue. All this evidence perfectly matches the records of the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, who described the Scythian burial ritual. When a king died, all loyal servants, including family members, slaves, and horses, were sacrificed to accompany their master. Did the young woman know her fate in advance? Or was she an unwilling victim of the brutal ritual of an ancient culture that once ruled the Asian steppes? That question remains unanswered. But with every layer of earth removed, with every artifact uncovered, we get closer to the truth, though that truth can sometimes send shivers down our spines, my friends. The forgotten mummy of an Egyptian princess, after 4,000 years. Amid the endless golden sands of the Egyptian desert, once the cradle of one of the greatest civilizations in human history, a door to the past has been opened, revealing the secret of a woman who lived more than 4,000 years ago. The owner of the recently excavated tomb is neither a pharaoh nor a powerful priest, but a woman named Edie, the daughter of a wealthy and influential governor in Asyut, a fertile province along the Nile River during Egypt's Middle Kingdom period. The most remarkable thing is that her mummy was carefully buried inside two nested coffins, a rare structure almost never found intact in excavations from that era. According to the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, Edie's tomb dates back to the Middle Kingdom, spanning approximately from 2030 BCE to 1640 BCE. More precisely, during the reign of Pharaoh Senwosret I, who ruled from 1961 to 1917 BCE. This means that everything found in the tomb, from small statues and intricately carved ancient texts to Edie's very body, has survived over 4 millennia with astonishing preservation. What impressed archaeologists the most was Edie's burial structure. She was placed inside 2 wooden coffins, the outer coffin measuring about 8.5 feet long and the inner coffin about 7.5 feet long. Both were exquisitely crafted and inscribed with ancient theological texts, passages meant to guide the soul of the deceased on its journey to the afterlife. According to Professor Kathleen Cooney, an expert on ancient Egyptian art and architecture at UCLA, this discovery is extremely valuable. She noted that finding 2 intact coffins from the Middle Kingdom is so rare that it's almost a miracle in modern Egyptology. The meticulously carved inscriptions on the coffins are not just religious symbols, but also vital clues helping scientists identify Edie. Historical records indicate she was the daughter of Jefahapi, the governor of the strategic and resource-rich Asyut region, a key part of ancient Egypt's administrative system. From this, it can be inferred that Edie was not only a woman of high status, but also received the most elaborate funeral rites reserved for the nobility. However, time has not completely spared her tomb. Evidence at the site shows that it was once looted. Fortunately, her mummy remains relatively well preserved, allowing experts to analyze her health and lifestyle more deeply. Examination revealed she died around the age of 40, a relatively advanced age for a woman of that era, and had a congenital foot deformity that likely made walking difficult throughout her life. Besides the coffins, archaeologists also discovered several small wooden statues buried with her. One of these might be a miniature portrait of Edie herself, showing soft facial features and a dignified expression that reflects the respect she commanded during her lifetime. According to Associate Professor Caroline Arbuckle from the University of Saskatchewan, studying the inscriptions on the coffins not only sheds light on Edie's life, but also opens a deeper understanding of the spiritual beliefs and death concepts of ancient Egyptians. For them, death was not an end, but the beginning of a new journey in the afterlife. Therefore, the items buried with the dead were not merely possessions or symbols of power, but tools to help them survive and navigate the eternal realm. Edie's tomb, with its two finely crafted coffins and detailed spiritual texts, stands as a perfect testament to that belief. Though thousands of years have passed, the sands of time have not completely erased the traces of a woman who once lived, loved, and existed with a unique status in ancient Egypt. Thanks to the hands of archaeologists, Edie's story is told once again, not buried beneath layers of dust, but brought to life through every character, every statue, and every fascinating detail of an immortal civilization. Impressive, isn't it? The grim treasures in 18 ancient tombs in Ukraine. Recently, a shocking discovery was announced from southern Ukraine, a place holding ancient secrets of the Scythians, a legendary warrior tribe that once struck fear across the ancient world. From 18 ancient tombs scattered across 14 different sites, archaeologists uncovered 45 leather samples, burial items that seemed like ordinary relics. But no, two of these samples stunned the research team. They weren't animal hides, they were human skin. Yes, you read that right. A quiver and an arrow case, common warrior gear, were made from human flesh. Strangely, this discovery eerily matches the accounts recorded over 2,000 years ago by the Greek historian Herodotus. This famous historian described how the Scythians, skilled horse warriors, had a practice of flaying the scalps of their enemies and using that skin to decorate bridles or even make weapon cases. Feeling goosebumps yet? Imagine a quiver wrapped in human skin, possibly the skin of a defeated enemy's hand or scalp. These items were not merely weapons or trophies, they were symbols of honor, affirming the warrior's status before the entire community. The research team confirmed the materials through protein analysis, a modern technique that identifies the origin of leather based on remaining biological markers. Of the 45 samples collected, 43 were from familiar animals like sheep, goats, horses, and cattle. Only 2 samples came from humans, but that was enough to completely overturn old assumptions about Scythian culture. So why use human skin? Were they simply savage, or is there something deeper behind it? Although there is no conclusive evidence for the exact purpose, according to Herodotus, the use of human skin was no accident. It was part of a ritual honoring victory, a form of cold-blooded but strict warrior faith. The Scythians, who flourished from around 800 BCE to 300 CE, were one of the most prominent nomadic civilizations of the Eurasian steppes. Though notorious for their fierce, brutal nature and superior fighting skills, they were also highly skilled artisans, especially in gold craftsmanship and animal husbandry. We are talking about a complex culture, not merely crude warriors. They had advanced leatherworking techniques, sophisticated burial mounds, and even a unique philosophy that exalted personal strength and courage, sometimes pushing beyond the moral boundaries of the modern world. Have you ever imagined, amid the vast steppes, a Scythian warrior galloping on horseback, a quiver slung over his shoulder? Not made from wild animals, but from a defeated foe? This is not only a haunting image, but living proof that the past holds dark corners we are not always ready to face. The 8 most mysterious and ancient mummies discovered by archaeologists that could rewrite history. The world's most infamous mummy shocks experts. On May 12, 1897, 2 laborers dredging peat from the Scythian bog near the village of Ede in the Netherlands made a chilling discovery: a deformed, partially preserved blackened body with striking red hair. According to officials at the time, the girl had likely been murdered. Evidence included a knotted cord still wrapped around her neck and a stab wound near her collarbone. It took scientists nearly a century to determine that the body belonged to a 16-year-old girl, just over 3 feet tall, who had died sometime between 54 BC and 128 AD. Today, she is known as the Wide Girl, and her body has been preserved for over 2,000 years. The mystery surrounding her baffled scientists from the very beginning. When local officials and the Drents Museum of History received the body on May 21, 1897, her identity was completely unknown. The noose around her neck and her missing limbs pointed to a brutal murder. Additionally, one side of her hair had been cut short, and all of her teeth were missing. At the time, there was no way to determine her age. Radiocarbon dating wouldn't be developed until the 1940s. It wasn't until 1992 that Professor Richard Neve of the University of Manchester performed a CT scan of her skull and concluded the body was that of a female around 16 years old, based on the absence of wisdom teeth. She also suffered from scoliosis, which would have weakened her body, and her right foot was severely swollen, likely causing her to limp. Carbon dating confirmed that the girl had died during the early Common Era, and the bog's tannic acid had preserved her remains ever since. In 1994, when experts reconstructed her face, the eyed girl became internationally famous. The reason behind her death is still unclear. Dr. Roy van Beek of Wageningen University offered a few theories. There are 2 main hypotheses, he explained. The first is that bog bodies may have been people who violated social rules or were found guilty of a crime. The second, and more widely accepted, is that they were sacrificial offerings to a higher power. So what is the truth? How did the Wide Girl die? To answer that, in 2019, Dr. Van Beek and his colleagues conducted a detailed study using landscape and terrain analysis. They concluded that her death may have had a more personal motive. The girl may have come from a nearby settlement on the slopes of Ide, Van Beek explained. However, her body was left in a small and relatively shallow bog, about 2/3 of a mile away. Officials from the Drents Museum later clarified that the girl's hair had likely been cut by 19th century villagers after her discovery. Historically, cutting a woman's hair as punishment for adultery was a common practice in medieval Europe. However, no evidence of a husband or proof of disfigurement or deformity was ever found. Some researchers speculate that the girl may have been selected as a child sacrifice, a ritual believed to bring prosperity to agriculture during ancient times. But all of this remains purely speculative. To this day, the mystery surrounding the death of the eyed girl remains unsolved. Her mummy is currently housed and preserved at the Drents Museum in Assen, Netherlands. If you ever get the chance, it's definitely worth a visit. The most heavily tattooed female mummy ever discovered. In 2006, an excavation at the Huaca El Brujo archaeological site in Peru led to a groundbreaking discovery that shook the world of archaeology. Researchers uncovered the mummy of a woman, whom experts later named the Lady of Cow for ease of study. This mummy is believed to have lived approximately 1,600 years ago, during the time of the Moche civilization, an ancient culture renowned for its grand architecture and distinctive art. Examinations revealed that the Lady of Cow died at the young age of around 20 years old. Experts suspect her cause of death may have been complications following childbirth. This tragic detail makes her story all the more mysterious and captivating, blending the sorrow of a young death with the enigmatic aura of the Moche civilization. What sets the Lady of Cow apart is the intricate and meaningful tattoos covering her body. Experts identified depictions of mythical animals such as spiders, snakes, crabs, catfish, and other creatures, each carrying rich symbolic meaning in Moche belief systems. These tattoos were not just artistic expressions, they were deeply spiritual, likely serving as a connection to the divine. Because of this, scholars believe the tattoos weren't mere decoration, but may have played a role in religious rituals or served as symbols of the Lady of Cow's status and power. The tattooing technique used by the Moche was also remarkably sophisticated. They employed sharp needles or bone thorns to embed charcoal-based ink into the skin, creating detailed and vibrant tattoos. Thanks to the arid climate of Huaca El Brujo, both the body and the tattoos of the Lady of Cow were remarkably well preserved, surviving for more than a millennium. Beyond her tattoos, the Lady of Cow was buried with a range of valuable artifacts, including weapons, gold ornaments, and other symbols of authority. These findings strongly suggest that she was far more than an ordinary woman. The burial practices and accompanying items point to her possibly being a high priestess, a figure of religious authority in Moche society. This theory is further supported by her tattoos, which are closely linked to gods and sacred rituals. With these discoveries, researchers continue to investigate her life and status. Was she a powerful priestess, a central figure in Moche spiritual ceremonies? The mystery remains, and future research may bring even more of her story to light. So, what do you think about these findings? Could these tattoos be more than religious symbols? Perhaps signs of the power and influence the Lady of Cow held within her society? These questions remain open, and they continue to spark interest among scholars and history lovers alike. And if you happen to know something about this fascinating mummy, don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's explore this mystery together. The 400-year-old mummy of a French noblewoman. During an archaeological excavation at Château de Laval in northwestern France in 1988, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a French noblewoman named Anne de Legre, who died in 1619. Her body had been mummified inside a lead coffin, and her skeleton and teeth were found in remarkably well-preserved condition. At the time, researchers noted that the mummy had an artificial tooth and gold wire bindings, but lacked the advanced scanning technology to investigate further. Now, 35 years later, a team of archaeologists and dental experts, led by Rosen Kaliter from the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research, have made new discoveries about de Legre's condition. Using cone beam CT scanning, a type of 3D imaging with X-rays, they found that de Legre had suffered from periodontal disease, which caused her teeth to become loose. The scans revealed that gold wires had been used to hold and tighten several of her teeth in place, while her artificial tooth was made of elephant ivory, not hippopotamus ivory, which was more commonly used at the time. However, Kaliter explained that this intricate dental work may have worsened her condition. The gold wires had to be tightened repeatedly over the years, likely causing even more instability in the surrounding teeth. Yet, the pain de Legre endured may not have been solely for medical reasons. There was immense pressure on noblewomen during that era, as physical appearance was closely tied to social value and status. Ambroise Paré, a contemporary of de Legre and physician to several French kings, designed similar dental prosthetics and once said that if a person had no teeth, their words carried no weight. A beautiful smile held powerful meaning, especially for Anne de Legre, a socially controversial woman who had been widowed twice. De Legre lived through one of France's most turbulent historical periods. She was a Protestant Huguenot and fought against Catholics during the French Wars of Religion in the late 1500s. By the age of 21, she had become a widow and had a young son named Guy de Laval. When the Eighth War of Religion broke out, de Legre and her son were forced to flee from Catholic forces, and their property was seized by the king. Her son later converted to Catholicism and went to fight in Hungary, where he died in battle at the age of 20. After being widowed a second time, de Legre died of illness at the age of 54. Researchers say that her teeth alone offer compelling evidence of the stress and hardship she endured throughout her life. This is surely one of those historical mysteries that even the most avid students of world history might never come across, if not for the incredible work of modern archaeologists. A perfectly preserved 16th century mummy hides an unbelievable secret. In 1949, archaeologists in the town of Guano, Ecuador, discovered a mummy dating back to the 16th century, remarkably well preserved. This find stunned archaeologists and experts alike, as ancient mummies typically degrade significantly over time. But in this case, the body of a man had been preserved in nearly perfect condition. So, what allowed this mummy to remain intact for centuries? To answer that question, Philippe Charlier, a French forensic pathologist known for his studies on the remains of Adolf Hitler, recently conducted a research project on the mummy. According to Charlier, the mummy revealed many fascinating secrets thanks to its exceptional state of preservation. Specifically, the body had been kept in a cold and dry environment, which protected it from environmental decay and the passage of time. Because of this, researchers were able to closely examine the man's health and medical history. One surprising finding was evidence of rheumatoid arthritis, a chronic autoimmune disease that causes the joints and limbs to become stiff, swollen, and painful. Experts believe that this man may have lived with rheumatoid arthritis for a long time before passing away at the age of approximately 85 to 90 years old. Notably, the ability to detect signs of disease in ancient remains has given scientists a deeper understanding of the health conditions of people in the past, as well as how they may have coped with illness. However, another strange discovery left archaeologists puzzled. Next to the man's mummy, researchers found a mummified mouse buried alongside him. This raised many unanswered questions. Why would a mouse be mummified and placed next to a human who died centuries ago? Was the mouse part of a religious ritual, or did it hold some special symbolic meaning that we have yet to understand? To this day, the identity of the man remains unknown. Archaeologists continue searching for clues to determine who he was and why he was buried with a mummified rodent. Still, this discovery has opened a new window into the study of ancient burial practices, giving us deeper insight into the spiritual beliefs and rituals of long-lost cultures, don't you think? The smoke-mummified bodies, hanging on cliffs in the Morobe Highlands of Papua New Guinea. Normally, when we think of mummies, we imagine bodies carefully embalmed and preserved in golden sarcophagi, stone coffins, or rare wooden caskets. However, for centuries, the Anga tribe in the Morobe Highlands of Papua New Guinea has practiced an eerie and unique form of mummification, smoke preservation. And instead of burying the bodies, they hang them on sheer cliff faces, overlooking the villages below. The sight of reddish human remains hanging high on rocky cliffs may seem frightening or even bizarre, but for the Anga people, this is the highest form of respect they can show to the deceased. The mummification process is carried out by experienced individuals within the tribe. After being smoke-dried over a fire, the body is covered in clay and red earth, forming a natural cocoon that protects it from insects and scavengers. Once the preservation is complete, the mummy is then hoisted up and secured to the cliffside. This practice was not reserved for tribal leaders or warriors alone. All men, women, and even young children in the Anga tribe could be mummified in this way. What's even more unsettling is that, on death anniversaries or during important events, the mummies might be taken down from the cliffs, only to be rehung afterward. The idea of interacting with the preserved dead might seem terrifying to outsiders, but for the Anga, it was a meaningful part of their connection to their ancestors. Thankfully, or perhaps unfortunately, depending on your perspective, this mummification ritual was banned in 1975 when Papua New Guinea gained independence. Today, only a few remote tribes still carry out this ancient and chilling tradition. The mummified monk, inside a 1,000-year-old Buddha statue. In the world of Buddhism, some stories go beyond legend and mystery. Aside from the globally known tale of Lama Dashi Dorjo Itagilov, there exists another lesser-known yet equally fascinating story, one that continues to spark curiosity and debate. It centers around a Chinese Buddhist master who is believed to have self-mummified while meditating. The story begins with an ancient Buddha statue, estimated to be around 1,000 years old. When scientists scanned the statue using imaging technology, they uncovered a shocking truth. Inside the statue was a skeleton of a Buddhist practitioner seated in the lotus meditation position. Further analysis revealed that the remains belonged to Zhenggong Liuquan, a monk from the Chinese Chan, Zen Buddhist tradition, who is believed to have died around the year 1100 CE. It is believed that Zhenggong Liuquan undertook the ritual of self-mummification, a sacred and extremely rare practice among certain Buddhist monks. The purpose of this ritual was to become a living Buddha, a state of ultimate spiritual purification and transcendence. To achieve this, the monk would subject himself to an incredibly strict and ascetic regimen, designed to eliminate all fat and moisture from the body. For the first 1,000 days, the monk would eat only nuts and berries. After that, the diet shifted to tree bark and roots, and finally, he would begin drinking a toxic tea made from the sap of the urushi tree. This poison not only helped kill off bacteria and parasites in the body, but also acted as a natural preservative, preventing decomposition after death. Once this process was complete, the monk would enter a small stone tomb, sealed except for a breathing tube and a bell. He would continue to meditate in the lotus position until death. The guard outside would know the monk had passed when the bell stopped ringing. At that point, the tomb would be sealed permanently, and the body would undergo the final stage of natural mummification. marking the monk's transformation into a revered spiritual figure. The story of Zhenggong Luquan became even more remarkable in 2015 when researchers removed materials from inside the statue. Instead of internal organs, they found decayed remnants and a scroll bearing ancient Chinese characters. This discovery was not only groundbreaking but also controversial, especially since the statue was allegedly stolen from China by a Dutch art collector over 20 years ago. The case has since strained diplomatic relations between the two countries, and to this day, no formal agreement has been reached regarding the statue's return. Many Buddhists believe that mummies like this do not represent death, but rather spiritual beings in a state of deep meditation. However, recent studies suggest that Zhenggong Luquan died at the age of 37, and his body showed signs of illness, possibly due to the extreme fasting or other health conditions. This has led some scholars to question whether he truly completed the self-mummification ritual on his own, or whether others were involved in preserving his body after death. Regardless of the unanswered questions, the story of Zhenggong Luquan remains a powerful testament to the devotion, patience, and unshakable faith of Buddhist masters, those who were willing to give not just their lives, but even their physical bodies, in pursuit of spiritual transcendence, even if the path led to death and immortality. Mummified man found aboard yacht. On Friday, February 26, 2016, the sky was clear and the sea calm, perfect conditions for a fishing trip. Christopher Rivas, 23, a resident of Barobo, a small town on the eastern coast of Mindanao Island in the Philippines, set out to sea with a few friends. About 40 miles offshore, the group was startled to discover an old, dilapidated white yacht named Sayo. Resembling a ghost ship, its hull was severely damaged beyond repair. The mast was broken and collapsed onto the deck, and part of the vessel had already sunk below the waterline. Curious, Rivas and his companions boarded the boat. What they found was far more horrifying than they could have imagined: the mummified body of a naked man sitting in a chair. They immediately reported the discovery to local authorities. Through investigation and documents found inside the cabin, police were able to identify the body as that of German sailor Manfred Fritz Bajorat. An autopsy revealed that the 59-year-old had died of a heart attack. He had likely been adrift at sea for several weeks. The salty air and intense heat from the seawater acted like natural preservatives, slowing the decomposition process. Explaining how Bajorat's body remained largely intact with minimal signs of decay, forensic pathology professor Peter Venezes stated, "The air, heat, and salt from the sea are all favorable conditions for mummification. These natural elements can preserve a body for about 2 to 3 weeks. After that, the fingers and then other body parts begin to dry out quickly within 1 or 2 months, eventually decaying slowly over time." News of this mysterious incident quickly spread across the internet. One question dominated everyone's mind: how did Bajorat, a German national, end up drifting alone in Philippine waters? Thanks to notes and personal items left behind on the yacht, police were eventually able to piece together the story. One handwritten note from Bajorat read, "30 years we traveled the same path together. Then you left me. May your soul find peace, your Manfred." The yacht itself was a treasure trove of family memories. Bajorat had kept albums filled with photographs, from snapshots taken at Notre Dame Cathedral and Parisian cafes to pictures from family picnics. The photos painted a picture of a once happy family. One photo showed Bajorat cradling a baby with a caption that read, "Our first time at sea with little Button." In these captured moments, he appeared overjoyed, cherishing every second with his wife and daughter. The German embassy in the Philippines eventually contacted Bajorat's family. They revealed that he had been an experienced sailor. He had once enjoyed a happy family life, but his wife had died of cancer in 2010. His daughter Nina was serving as a captain on a cargo ship at the time of the discovery. According to Nina, 2 years after her mother's passing, Bajorat set sail alone, exploring the seas for many years. It seems that the loss of his wife and the emptiness that followed left a wound that never healed. Bajorat chose to leave everything behind and made the ocean his final eternal home. The 2,100-year-old mummified boy, mistaken for a hawk. In 1925, a native doctor brought a 2,100-year-old mummified boy to the Maidstone Museum in England, believed to be that of a hawk. This was not particularly surprising, as the outer wrappings were commonly used by the ancient Egyptians to preserve mummified animals like hawks, sacred creatures offered to the gods. For many years, this mummy was displayed to visitors under the identity of a hawk until a special study revealed the truth. In the 1990s, archaeozoologist Andrew Nelson and his colleagues from the University of Western Ontario conducted a detailed examination of the mummy using CT scans. The results stunned everyone. The mummy, long thought to be a hawk, was actually that of a premature baby boy, estimated to be between 23 and 28 weeks old. This is an extremely rare case because the boy's brain and skull did not develop properly. The entire head was incomplete, and the vertebrae had not fused, a clear sign of anencephaly, a congenital condition where the brain fails to develop at birth. Researchers speculate that although the boy died before fully developing, his body was carefully mummified with special respect given to a life that was never fully lived. The outer wrappings of the mummy bear images of Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god of the afterlife, alongside the goddesses Isis and Nephthys standing by his side, all symbolizing a deep ritual offering. Notably, a three-headed bird with a human-like head is depicted flying over Osiris, with the Ujat eye above, a symbol of protection and health. This discovery not only solved a decades-old mystery, but also offered a new perspective on ancient Egyptian rituals and beliefs, showing that even the smallest lives, like this baby boy's, were prepared for the afterlife with reverence and special care. The world's most mysterious archaeological discoveries that scientists still cannot explain. A 33,500-year-old dinosaur horn. In May 2012, in Dawson County, Montana, researchers unearthed a fossilized horn from a triceratops, a species of herbivorous dinosaur that was among the most famous to have lived at the end of the Cretaceous period. But the shocking part wasn't the discovery of the horn itself, it was the results of the carbon-14 dating analysis. Instead of showing an age of tens of millions of years, the horn was dated to only about 33,500 years old. That means it appeared during a time when humans were already present, living in communities, tribes, and even forming early civilizations. If this information is accurate, could it mean there was once a point in history when humans and dinosaurs actually encountered each other, perhaps even coexisted on the same Earth? To help you understand, the carbon-14 dating method is widely trusted by archaeologists to determine the age of sites and artifacts up to 55,000 years old. Previously, no one ever thought to apply this technique to dinosaur bones, since the long-standing assumption has always been that dinosaurs went extinct around 65 million years ago. Yet, a group of unconventional scientists dared to ask, what if that assumption was wrong? And when they tested the Triceratops horn, the result was beyond imagination, showing not millions of years, but only tens of thousands. It didn't stop there. When more fossil samples were tested, the results grew even more bewildering. Many dinosaur bones showed ages ranging between 23,000 and 39,000 years old. This suggests that these giants might have survived long after the Cretaceous extinction event, possibly living on into the era of early humans. Interestingly, aside from fossil evidence, there are traces in ancient art suggesting that humans may have actually seen these creatures with their own eyes. For example, in India, the Vitala Temple, built around 6,000 years ago, features carvings strikingly similar to the Stegosaurus, the famous plated dinosaur from the Cretaceous period. In Europe, the tapestry mural in the Church of de Blois depicts a creature nearly identical to the duck-billed dinosaur Spinorhinus. Even more astonishing is the collection of ancient figurines made by the Acambaro people in Mexico. Among the thousands of figurines excavated, countless ones resemble dinosaurs, from Brontosaurus and Stegosaurus to Triceratops. Some figurines even depict humans riding on the backs of dinosaurs or playing with their young. This raises a troubling question. If these were only products of imagination, then how could ancient people, who had no anatomical knowledge or reconstruction technology, have created such detailed and accurate depictions? What's even more remarkable is that beyond these figurines, archaeologists have discovered cave paintings across 4 continents, Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Americas, that clearly illustrate Triceratops and other dinosaurs. Strangely, the shapes and features of these creatures match almost perfectly with modern reconstructions using today's technology. Could this mean that ancient humans actually saw dinosaurs firsthand and recorded them in their art? If so, the long-accepted belief that dinosaurs completely went extinct 65 million years ago may need to be reconsidered. Some researchers have even boldly claimed that nearly 10 species of dinosaurs could have survived into human times. And perhaps they were the very origin of mythical creatures such as dragons and beasts found in legends across the world. When you think about this, doesn't it send chills down your spine? The 33,500-year-old Triceratops horn from Montana is just one fragment of a massive mystery. It opens up a flood of unanswered questions. Did dinosaurs really vanish tens of millions of years ago? Or did they persist well into the age of humans? Could the statues and ancient drawings found worldwide be evidence that people once lived alongside dinosaurs? And if so, does the history of Earth as we know it need to be rewritten? The mass grave of 380 skeletons. From the 1st century, the bloody battle between Rome and the Germanic tribes. In the wetlands of Enge, in the Illerup River Valley, scientists have uncovered a massive mass grave containing 380 skeletons dating back to the 1st century AD. Can you imagine it? Hundreds of people, of all ages, who fell together in a fierce battle. And what remains after nearly 2,000 years is the coldest evidence of history's brutality. When these skeletons were brought to light, what struck archaeologists first was the age and gender of the dead. Most of them were adult men, roughly 40 to 60 years old. But the most haunting part was the discovery of children's remains, some as young as 13 or 14 years old. Clearly, this battle did not only claim the lives of strong adult men, but also dragged in young teenagers who had barely reached maturity. The marks on the bones made the discovery even more tragic. Almost all bore heavy injuries, showing they had perished in violent combat. But that wasn't all. On many skeletons, researchers also found gnaw marks from wild animals such as dogs, foxes, and even wolves. This proved that after the battle, the bodies had been left exposed, never given a proper burial, and instead became food for scavengers. Dr. Mette Løvskjold of Aarhus University, who led the research team, believes not all of these men were professional warriors. Some evidence suggests they may have been ordinary villagers, hastily recruited to face an enemy army. Perhaps in a single moment, they picked up weapons to confront the invaders, and then remained forever on the battlefield. What makes this discovery even more significant is that archaeologists did not only find bones. A cache of artifacts linked to the battle was also uncovered. Iron weapons such as swords, knives, axes, and fragments of broken shields. Alongside them were ceramic vessels and animal bones, from dogs, pigs, and cattle. These finds reveal a clearer picture. This was not just a small skirmish, but a large-scale battle involving many groups of people of different classes and ages. The historical context makes the story even more dramatic. In the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire was expanding north into Europe. Brutal battles erupted between Rome and the Germanic tribes, not only over land, but over power and the survival of entire peoples. And it was likely in one of these clashes that 380 people fell, their remains lying in the waterlogged earth for nearly 2 millennia. What especially fascinates archaeologists is the way these remains were gathered. Not everyone was buried with care. Many skeletons seem to have been discarded hastily, collected all at once, and deposited in a single massive grave. Was this a way of clearing the battlefield? Or did it reflect some kind of ritual we still don't understand? Though there is no certain answer, this discovery is a window into the past, allowing us to see more clearly the violence of Rome's confrontations with the northern tribes. The mysterious pits in Russia's forests. Alien traces or natural phenomena. In the dense forests where sunlight barely touches the ground, people often believe that only trees, wild animals, and silence reign. Yet, since the late 1980s, a series of mysterious pits have been discovered across several regions of Russia. These are not ordinary sinkholes. They carry layers of strange details so baffling that even today, scientists cannot provide a satisfying explanation. The pits have been found scattered in 3 main areas: Ryazan and Kaluga in the west, and Krasnoyarsk in central Russia. The strangest part is that some appear to be hundreds of thousands of years old, while others emerge overnight. Imagine this. Yesterday, the path you walked was perfectly normal, but by morning, a massive vertical pit, so deep it looks as if drilled by a giant machine, suddenly yawns before you. Even more puzzling, These pits show no signs of dug-up soil or displaced rocks, nor any evidence of machinery that could have created them. One of the most famous pits, which once went viral on social media, lies in such a dense forest that no car, truck, or heavy equipment could possibly reach it. Yet there it is, deep, steep, and eerily flawless. The most shocking case was discovered in Kaluga by a cowherd named Pyotr Malinkin. While wandering a meadow, he stumbled upon a large pit about 20 feet in diameter and nearly 15 feet deep, with smooth walls and a pool of water at the bottom. What stunned Malinkin was that the day before, nothing unusual had been there. But overnight, the familiar ground had turned into a giant pit. Even his cattle seemed terrified, refusing to approach the area and avoiding it altogether. When researchers arrived, locals insisted the pit had formed in just one night. There were no signs of excavation or machinery, and its perfectly smooth walls looked as if they had been polished by modern technology. Fearing accidents, villagers later fenced the area off. Nearby, villagers also recalled another pit that appeared decades earlier. No matter how much earth and rock people dumped in, it never filled. Years later, when researchers returned, the pit had vanished, swallowed by thick vegetation. Close to it, there was also a strange stream, nicknamed the Angry Stream. The water in it would bubble whenever someone approached, and if people spoke nearby, the bubbling grew more intense. This story is tied to a local legend dating back to 1812, when Napoleon's army invaded the area and a church was said to have sunk underground. Some scientists suggest the Kaluga region's limestone foundation and underground water may have gradually eroded to form hidden caves. By this theory, certain structures, even the church, might have collapsed into them. But this explanation still falls short, as it doesn't account for the pit's unnaturally smooth, machine-like walls. As a result, other theories have emerged. Some believe these are natural phenomena, unusual variations of ground subsidence. Others suggest the possibility of secret underground activities conducted by an unknown group. But the most captivating theory is that of extraterrestrials. Could these pits be evidence of soil sampling conducted during alien experiments? Still, no theory has been proven with solid scientific evidence. The mysterious pits remain, standing as a challenge to human understanding, a reminder that Earth still hides countless secrets. So, in the end, are these pits the work of nature, the hand of man, or the traces of an alien civilization that once visited us? The answer may still lie hidden beneath Russia's shadowy forests. And you, what do you believe? Or do you think the truth could be even stranger than anything we can imagine? The Forgotten Maya Treasure, hidden for centuries, discovered inside a kitchen in Guatemala. Imagine an ordinary day when you're renovating your old family kitchen, and suddenly, the peeling plaster on the wall reveals a piece of humanity's grand past. You might think that sounds far-fetched, like something out of a science fiction movie. But no, it's exactly what happened to a family in Guatemala. While scraping away layers of plaster that had been there for hundreds of years, they had no idea they were uncovering an archaeological treasure, ancient drawings belonging to the legendary Maya civilization. What astonished everyone wasn't just the unexpected discovery, but the almost perfect condition of the paintings after centuries hidden inside the wall. The reason was surprisingly simple. The old plaster acted as a protective armor, shielding the artwork from the ravages of time, humidity, and even human interference. When researchers arrived, they couldn't hide their amazement. The Maya are famous for their unique art and symbolic system, but to find such paintings inside an ordinary kitchen was something truly extraordinary. This raised new questions. Was the house just a normal living space back then? Or could it once have been a site for religious rituals, maybe even a sacred space? For those who may not know, the Maya were one of the most brilliant civilizations in the Americas. From around 2600 BC to 900 AD, they created a magnificent world stretching across Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Towering pyramids, grand ancient cities, and a sophisticated writing system all testify to their advanced development. Even more impressive, they possessed astronomical knowledge, mathematics, and a calendar so precise that it still amazes scholars today. That's why these paintings are more than just art. They are like precious puzzle pieces helping us better understand the Maya's spiritual life. On those walls might be depictions of gods, historical stories, or traces of rituals once performed in that very space. Think about it. If the paintings were indeed tied to religious practices, then inside that small kitchen, sacred ceremonies once took place, where the Maya prayed for good harvests, divine protection, or recorded their timeless legends. And when the plaster covered the walls, it was as if time itself decided to preserve those memories, keeping them safe until today. This explains why researchers couldn't take their eyes off the discovery. They knew every line and symbol held profound meaning, and perhaps these very drawings will unlock untold stories about a civilization that once rose to greatness before mysteriously declining. Spanish colonizers may have erased much of the Maya's legacy. Wars and centuries may have destroyed countless ruins, but clearly the civilization never vanished. It still lingers, hidden in the forests, in crumbling ruins, and now even within the walls of a humble kitchen. This discovery is a reminder: the past never truly disappears. It is always close by, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And who knows? In other old houses, behind cracked plaster, there may still be time portals yet to be opened. So, what do you think? Were those kitchen paintings simply decoration, or were they part of sacred Maya rituals? Personally, I lean toward the ritual explanation. The egg-shaped stone, with a human face, carving that has puzzled scientists for 150 years. In 1872, near the picturesque Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, a group of workers accidentally unearthed a strange object while digging a hole for a fence post. They had no idea that their discovery would spark one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries, debated by scientists for over a century. The object wasn't pottery or a simple tool, but an egg-shaped stone, tightly encased in clay. From the very first moment, it sparked intense curiosity. The first person to own the stone was Seneca A. Ladd, a local merchant and the employer of the workers. He quickly realized this was no ordinary rock. What made it remarkable was not only its smooth, jet-black oval shape, about 4 inches long, 2.5 inches thick, and weighing more than 1 pound, but also the strange carvings etched across its surface. These designs had never been seen on any other artifact found in America. Both ends of the stone had perfectly drilled holes, smooth as if made with modern tools. Covering its surface were baffling symbols: spirals, inverted arrows, the moon, a teepee, and even a remarkably detailed ear of corn with 17 kernels. Most striking of all was a human face, with a flat nose and lips carved in vivid expression. Just hearing about it already feels mysterious, doesn't it? Even stranger, the stone was made of sandstone or myelinite, types of rock not commonly found in New Hampshire. This raised more questions. Where did it come from, and who made it? Because of its puzzling nature, the artifact was soon nicknamed New England's Mystery Stone. The American Naturalist magazine even sought out Mr. Ladd to publish an article about this strange relic, describing it as a unique artifact of Native Americans. After Ladd's death in 1892, his daughter donated the stone to the New Hampshire Historical Society. But even there, it wasn't officially recognized as a Native American creation. Instead, it was displayed separately, like an object that didn't quite fit into any known category. Over time, countless theories emerged. Some suggested the stone was a ceremonial object, marking a treaty between tribes. Others speculated it might have originated from distant Celtic or Inuit cultures. A bolder theory proposed it was a thunderstone, a mysterious object that fell from the sky, tied to ancient beliefs about the god of thunder. And of course, there were those who believed the carvings were not of this world at all, that the stone might be of extraterrestrial origin, with its engraving serving as a code humanity has yet to decipher. Yet all these ideas remain speculation. Even after more than 150 years of study, there is no definitive answer. Its true age, its purpose, and the meaning of its symbols all remain shrouded in mystery. And perhaps it is precisely this uncertainty that has made the stone one of the most intriguing artifacts in American archaeological history. Today, the enigmatic egg-shaped stone is displayed at the New Hampshire Historical Society. It sits within a special mirrored case that reflects and magnifies every carved detail, allowing visitors to study its craftsmanship from every angle. Perhaps this stone is more than just an ancient artifact. Perhaps it is a gateway, opening up a flood of questions about a past we still do not fully understand. It forces us to wonder, do we truly know the full story of human civilization? Or are there still forgotten pieces waiting to be uncovered? And what if the answer doesn't lie on this earth at all? So, what do you think? Is the mysterious stone a relic of an ancient tribe, a tool from a lost civilization, or even proof of extraterrestrial contact? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The 5 shocking archaeological discoveries in unexpected locations that left scientists speechless. The 2,300-year-old Sacrificial tomb in Peru reveals a gruesome truth. Recently in Peru, scientists excavated a series of unusual tombs containing more than 10 skeletons dating back about 2,300 years. The chilling part is that many of these remains show clear signs of ritual sacrifice. The tomb was discovered near the Smoke-mummified temple complex, located on the northwestern coast of Peru, a region well known for its archaeological sites connected to prehistoric Andean cultures. According to the research team, the temple itself is about 3,000 years old, but the tombs belong to a later period, roughly between 400 and 200 BC. This has led scientists to hypothesize that the temple may have been abandoned before the sacrifices took place, and that the tombs themselves serve as evidence of a mysterious religious ritual. What's most haunting is the way these bodies were buried. Professor Henry Tantaleon, an archaeology lecturer at the National University of San Marcos and head of the excavation, described, "The way they were placed in the tomb is truly unusual." He explained that the bodies were laid face down, a burial style rarely seen in the prehistoric Andes. Typically, ancient cultures buried their dead lying on their backs or in a seated fetal position, but here it was the opposite, suggesting a very deliberate intent. Even more disturbing, many skeletons showed signs of having their hands tied behind their backs, ropes looped around their necks, and in some cases, fractured skulls. These details convinced the research team that the individuals were likely sacrificed in a ritual rather than dying of natural causes. Adding to the horror, none of the bodies were buried with offerings or grave goods, something that was extremely common in ancient cultures. This absence led archaeologists to believe that these people were nothing more than living offerings presented to the gods, stripped of any honor typically given in conventional burials. Professor Tantaleon emphasized that the lack of burial items strongly reinforces the theory. They were sacrificial offerings to this ancient sanctuary. In other words, their existence in these tombs was tied solely to a ritual purpose, not to memorialize loved ones or honor community leaders. On a broader level, these discoveries highlight not only the practice of sacrifice, but also the deep connection between religion and power in ancient civilizations. Large-scale sacrificial rituals required authority, collective belief, and strict social control. This shows that the Smoke-mummified temple was more than just an architectural structure. It was once a religious center where human lives were surrendered in exchange for divine favor. Interestingly, although the site was first uncovered in 2024, excavations are still continuing in 2025. This gives hope that future discoveries may provide more clues about the people who were sacrificed, as well as the mysterious culture that once thrived in this region. Just imagine, more than 2,000 years ago, at the sacred Smoke-mummified temple, these individuals may have been forced to kneel, hands bound, before being offered as living sacrifices to a god whose name we may never know. Within that ritual space, their lives ended, and their bodies were buried face down, forever bound to silence and secrecy. This is clearly not just an ordinary archaeological story. It is a stark reminder that behind the grandeur of ancient civilizations lay the shadows of sacrifice. These skeletons are not merely physical remains. They are living testimony to a belief system where people were willing or compelled to give up their very lives in the search for supernatural protection. The young warrior and clues of Eastern Slavic power in a tomb in Poland. Throughout human history, there have been archaeological discoveries so strange and mysterious that every detail sends chills down our spine. One such case is the ancient tomb discovered near the village of Bodzia, northwest of Warsaw, Poland, during a survey for highway construction. At first, it seemed like an ordinary survey, but no one expected it would open a doorway to secrets buried for over 1,000 years. Here, archaeologists uncovered an entire cemetery dating back to the late 10th and early 11th centuries. Among the many graves, one particular tomb left researchers stunned. Inside, they found the skeleton of a young warrior, only about 20 years old, yet his bones carried the marks of a violent death. A broken jaw, a crushed skull, evidence that he had been brutally killed. But the mystery didn't end there. Lying right next to him was the skeleton of a young woman, also around 20 years old, who had suffered the same cruel fate. What was their relationship? Were they lovers, a married couple, or was she simply an unfortunate witness caught in a struggle for power? The answer remains unknown. Andrzej Buko, director of the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Polish Academy of Sciences, confirmed that the grave goods found with the warrior were far from ordinary. A silver amulet engraved with an eagle with outstretched wings, an emblem that remains a mystery even today, was placed beside him. In addition, a silver necklace, rock crystal, and carnelian beads crafted in the style of ancient Slavic jewelry were uncovered, all proving the young man's wealth and high status. But the most striking item was a bronze belt with intricate designs, as if declaring that its owner had once been a close ally, or perhaps even a family member of Swiatopolk, the powerful prince of the Kievan Rus dynasty in Poland. Swiatopolk was known as an ambitious and ruthless figure. He ascended the throne in the early 11th century and to secure his power did not hesitate to murder his own brothers. Against this backdrop, the young warrior buried at Bodzia could very well have been one of his trusted supporters, or possibly even his son. If this theory is correct, then his violent death makes the story even more dramatic, tying it to the conspiracies and tragedies of the Eastern Slavic royal court. Even more intriguing, archaeologists also found numerous pieces of women's jewelry from medieval Eastern Europe in the cemetery. This sparked speculation that the men buried there might have been Viking warriors, who played an important role in Eastern European society at the time. Remember, during this period, Vikings were not only dominant at sea, but also served as elite guards protecting Byzantine emperors in Constantinople. So, their presence as bodyguards for Slavic princes was not unusual. Yet the biggest question remains unanswered. Why did a young warrior of such high status and power meet such a brutal end? Was it the result of a violent struggle for the throne within the royal family? Or was it simply an act of bloody revenge? And who was the young woman buried with him? What role did she play in this tragic story? To this day, all of it remains speculation. Scientists have yet to uncover a final answer, and that very uncertainty has made the Bodzia tomb one of the most fascinating archaeological mysteries in Europe. It is not just a tale of a violent death, but also a reflection of a turbulent chapter in history, where power, greed, and loyalty intertwine to create tragedies buried beneath the soil for centuries. The 2,000-year-old treasure in a fortress, ravaged by Roman forces. Some treasures are more than just gold and jewels. They are living testimony to human tragedy, hope, and despair throughout history. That is exactly the case with two treasures unearthed in an ancient fortress in the town of Artesian, in Crimea, once part of the Bosporan kingdom. These treasures, buried about 2,000 years ago, not only reveal the wealth of the people who lived there, but also tell the sorrowful story of their struggle against the brutal Roman invasion. According to a scientific report published in the journal Ancient Civilizations from Scythia to Siberia, researchers discovered more than 200 ancient coins, mostly made of bronze, along with exquisite jewelry crafted from gold, silver, and bronze, as well as rare glass vessels. All of these artifacts were found within the ruins of the Artesian fortress, a settlement covering about 3.2 acres, complete with its own cemetery, which was once a vital part of the Bosporan kingdom. The historical backdrop was turbulent. The Bosporan kingdom was torn apart by civil war between two brothers, Mithridates VIII, who sought to break free from Roman control, and Codus I, who sided with the powerful empire that was expanding across Europe. This conflict was not merely a family feud. It would determine the fate of an entire kingdom. Ultimately, Rome dispatched its army to support Codus I, placing him on the throne while massacring the lands loyal to Mithridates, including Artesian. In desperation, the townspeople gathered inside the fortress, hoping to resist the advancing Romans. But as Professor Nikolai Vinokurov from Moscow State Pedagogical University explained, they must have known tragedy was inevitable. He suggested that the buried treasures were not simply wealth hidden from looters, but may have been part of a funerary ritual. In other words, the people of Artesian knew death was near, and burying the treasures was their way of affirming their faith and leaving a final message for future generations. The siege was fierce, and in AD 45, the Artesian fortress finally fell under Roman power. What makes the discovery especially intriguing is that each treasure hoard contained exactly 55 coins minted by Mithridates VIII. This could be a coincidence, or it might have been equal sums deliberately set aside by his supporters to pay for burial rites. While the true meaning remains uncertain, the number adds another layer of mystery to how these people prepared for their final moments. Another striking detail is the clear Greek cultural influence seen in the artifacts. Despite being a diverse community, the people of Artesian preserved Greek traditions and artistic styles. This was no surprise, since Greek colonists had settled along the Black Sea centuries earlier, marrying locals and blending cultures. That influence remained deeply rooted, even though Artesian was nearly 620 miles away from mainland Greece. For example, among the treasures was a silver brooch engraved with Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, as well as gold rings set with gemstones, carved with the images of Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, and Tyche, the goddess of fortune. These finds reveal not just material wealth, but also deep spiritual meaning, as the people of Artesian placed their final hopes and faith in the gods during their last hours. Excavations of the burned remains of the settlement revealed even more evidence of Greek-style living, from architecture to daily customs, showing that the community embraced Hellenic traditions. But all of this was destroyed when Roman soldiers set the settlement ablaze, leaving behind only ruins and the buried treasures. Later, Capuchin, installed by Rome as king, rebuilt the area. Yet the treasures of Artesian remained untouched beneath the ground for nearly 2 millennia, until archaeologists finally uncovered them. Today, these two treasures stand not only as proof of the wealth of a once thriving community, but also as witnesses to a tragic moment in history, a desperate stand against the unstoppable power of Rome. They tell the story of a people who, knowing death was inevitable, chose to preserve their traditions, their faith, and their final measure of pride. Impressive, isn't it? A half-million-year-old treasure of an extinct human species. If one day you happen to stumble upon some rough flint fragments and a few fossilized bones, would you ever imagine that they were once vivid proof of the existence of another human species that lived nearly 500,000 years ago? That is exactly the astonishing story of Tunel Wielkie Cave in Poland. In 2018, during what seemed like a routine excavation, archaeologists uncovered a strange collection of artifacts, including about 40 pieces of flint and countless animal bones. At first, all of them were thought to be around 40,000 years old, still within the period when our species, Homo sapiens, already existed. But then, a groundbreaking discovery completely overturned that assumption. Led by Dr. Małgorzata Kot from the Faculty of Archaeology at the University of Warsaw, the research team reanalyzed the entire site. The results shocked the scientific community. The flint tools and animal remains in the cave actually dated back between 440,000 and 550,000 years. That staggering number pushed us far back into a distant past when modern humans had not yet appeared on Earth. What does this mean? First, the entire archaeological treasure at Tunel Wielkie could not have belonged to Homo sapiens, since we only emerged a little over 300,000 years ago. The hand axes, flint flakes, and food-preparing tools must have been created by another human species, ancient inhabitants long extinct. The leading candidate scientists point to is Homo heidelbergensis. This early ancestor shared an evolutionary branch with both us and the Neanderthals in Europe. Their presence has been dated between 600,000 and 400,000 years ago, almost perfectly matching the timeline revealed at Tunel Wielkie. Second, the collection of animal bones found alongside the flint tools opened an entirely new perspective. Within the ancient sediment layers, researchers discovered the remains of animals that are now extinct, from ancient wolves and cave bears to the mighty cave lion. Most of these bones showed no signs of being hunted or processed by humans. This suggests that they were likely unwilling neighbors of the ancient people, sharing the area around the cave before being buried together by natural events in the same layer of rock and soil. Even so, their presence helped paint a vivid ecological picture of that era, a wild Europe where humans and giant beasts coexisted. Most importantly, this discovery has become the oldest archaeological evidence of human presence ever recorded in Poland. Until now, it was believed that human traces only appeared there much later. But the flint tools from Tunel Wielkie have rewritten history. They prove that hundreds of thousands of years ago, our distant ancestors, or more precisely, another human species, already lived, hunted, and crafted tools in this very place. Imagine this. 500,000 years ago, inside the darkness of Tunel Wielkie Cave, a group of Homo heidelbergensis were lighting a fire, sharpening flint tools to prepare their meal. Outside, the roar of a cave lion echoed from afar, while deep inside the cave, animal bones slowly piled up over the years. All of it would eventually be buried by time, only to be rediscovered today by the descendants of another human species, who now call it a treasure. The fascination here lies not only in its half-million-year age, but also in the mystery of its true owners. While Homo heidelbergensis is the strongest candidate, scientists still cannot state it with absolute certainty. One thing is sure, it was not Homo sapiens. And that very uncertainty casts a mysterious veil over Tunelwilki, making it one of the most intriguing and significant archaeological discoveries in Europe today. You see, every time a new archaeological site is unearthed, it's like uncovering another missing piece of humanity's grand puzzle. And the piece from Tunelwilki is perhaps one of the oldest, revealing that long before Homo sapiens were born, another human species lived, hunted, and left behind an invaluable treasure. So here's the question. If this was just one cave discovered by chance, how many more Tunelwilkis are still buried somewhere underground, holding secrets no human has ever known? And if one day we uncover more clues, will we finally be able to say with certainty which human species truly authored this half-million-year-old treasure? It's hard to say, but with modern technology advancing as it is today, I believe the experts will eventually find the answer. The 5,000-year-old jade dragon in an ancient Chinese tomb. In October 2024, researchers in China unearthed a strange treasure inside a tomb dating back 5,000 years. That artifact was a jade dragon, measuring about 6.2 inches long and 3.7 inches wide. It was found in a round tomb with a square altar placed directly to the south, a detail that added a sense of solemnity and emphasized its ceremonial nature. Alongside the jade dragon, archaeologists also uncovered human remains and a wide variety of pottery, ranging from cups and bowls to vessels with uniquely tripod-like shapes. This discovery site lies in Chifeng City, in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region of China, and has been dated to between 5,000 and 5,100 years ago, corresponding to the Hongshan culture, a flourishing Neolithic culture that once thrived in this area. The Hongshan people were skilled farmers who built large settlements with impressive structures and created remarkably intricate artifacts, defying the common assumption that the Stone Age was only about crude tools. That's why the newly unearthed jade dragon was immediately regarded as one of the most striking examples of their artistry and craftsmanship. Chinese researchers have even suggested that it might be the largest and most exquisite jade dragon ever discovered from the Hongshan culture. However, not everyone in academia fully agrees. Professor Gideon Shelok-Lavi, an East Asian studies expert at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, argued that while the discovery is highly valuable, it is not unique. Similar artifacts, in both form and size, have been found in other Hongshan tombs in the past. This raises an important question. Should all such artifacts really be called jade dragons? In fact, archaeologists have yet to confirm whether these shapes truly represent dragons as we imagine them today. Shelok-Lavi emphasized that calling them dragons may reflect a modern interpretation, imposing today's concepts onto a culture that lived 5,000 years ago. During the Neolithic era, we simply cannot be certain of the symbolic meaning the Hongshan people intended. Perhaps the figure was a sacred animal, a religious symbol, or simply an artwork made for its beauty. What makes this find even more fascinating is that the excavation site in Chifeng was not just an ordinary tomb. Its layout, with the altar, stratified artifacts, and overall structure, suggests that it also served a ceremonial purpose. This echoes earlier discoveries at another Hongshan site called Niu Heliang, where ritual complexes were also unearthed. The 6 terrifying archaeological discoveries that shocked scientists, ancient mysteries still unsolved. The 80 shackled skeletons and the strange mass execution in a Greek tomb. If there's any place where time seems to stand still, where untold stories and restless souls remain, it must be ancient tombs. And to kick off today's video, we'll dive into a shocking archaeological discovery. A mass grave deep underground in Greece, where 80 human skeletons were found, all with their hands bound in shackles. Sounds chilling already, doesn't it? But the mystery doesn't stop there. These remains weren't just discovered in chains. According to experts, these individuals were not common criminals or slaves, as many might assume. In fact, they were buried with clear signs of respect, neatly arranged in an orderly layout. This is in stark contrast to how ancient societies typically disposed of the bodies of executed criminals. The excavation took place at the ancient Phaleron Delta Cemetery, a vast area located between modern-day central Athens and the port of Piraeus, once the main commercial gateway of ancient Greece. This stunning find came to light during the construction of a new opera house and library. Classic case of dig anywhere, find something, except what they found was far from ordinary. In a rare move, archaeologists allowed journalists to visit the dig site. The scene they witnessed was haunting. Skeletons lying side by side, some stacked on top of one another, with jaws agape, as if many were still screaming in their final moments. Most of the individuals were young adults, and initial examinations revealed they were in good health before death, a suspicious detail that has left researchers puzzled. So, who were they? Why were they executed? And why were they buried like people of status? No definitive answers yet, but one widely supported theory suggests they may have been followers of Cylon, a political figure who attempted a coup in Athens in 632 BCE. With backing from his father-in-law, the tyrant of Megara, Cylon tried to seize control of the city. The rebellion failed, and while Cylon managed to escape to the Acropolis, his followers, possibly these 80 individuals, were captured and executed. Dr. Stella Chrysoulaki, the lead archaeologist, explained, "They were all executed using the same method, but they were buried with respect." This only deepens the mystery. Could this have been more than a mass execution? Possibly a political statement or even an ancient ritual we still don't fully understand? Anthropologists are continuing to study their DNA and bone structures to determine exact causes of death. To date, over 1,500 skeletons have been unearthed at the Phaleron Delta Cemetery, including infants buried in ceramic pots, adults who were cremated, and others laid to rest in stone coffins. This site is not just a final resting place, it's a living history book of an entire civilization. And who knows? Among those cold, dry bones may lie a world-shaking secret the modern world has yet to uncover. Do you believe it? The bizarre mummy in Peru that looks exactly like an alien. If you think mummies are just carefully preserved bodies tucked away in Egyptian pyramids or tombs, you're about to think again. Because in a remote region deep within the Andes Mountains of Peru, something was discovered. Something that might change everything we thought we knew about humanity, or perhaps about what once lived on this planet. It all happened in 2011 in the small town of Andahuaylilas. The name alone evokes the rich cultural spirit of the Inca, doesn't it? That year, a researcher named Renato Davila Riquelme unearthed a mummy so strange it left both archaeologists and scientists stunned. Not because of its age, but because of its completely unhuman-like appearance. Its skull was nearly 20 inches long, longer than any known human skull ever recorded. Meanwhile, the body was tiny, about the size of a newborn baby. But don't be quick to assume this was simply the remains of an infant with a rare medical condition, because the deeper the experts looked, the weirder it got. The mummy had fully developed front teeth, but no molars, a strange combination. Its eye sockets were unusually large, almost as if they could hypnotize anyone who stared into them. Even stranger, the soft spot on the skull, the fontanelle, was still open, a feature typically only seen in infants under 12 months old. But if it was a baby, why did it already have fully grown front teeth? And how do you explain a skull that long? Faced with so many unanswerable questions, Riquelme didn't stay silent. He invited 3 renowned anthropologists from Spain and Russia to Peru to examine the mummy firsthand. They didn't just observe the shape, they conducted in-depth scientific analyses. And then came a shocking announcement. This being cannot be classified as a human as we know it. So what exactly was it? An undiscovered ancient species? A genetic mutation the world has never seen? Or, as the internet quickly speculated, was it an extraterrestrial? It may sound like science fiction, but even the experts had to admit, the biological features of this mummy do not match any known human species. In fact, they proposed extracting samples from the preserved eyeball tissue still in the socket to run DNA tests, hoping it might finally reveal the true identity of this being. But here's the strangest part. That DNA result was never released. That's right, total silence. No report, no scientific publication, no explanation. So why keep it a secret? Could the results have revealed something too shocking to accept? Something that might challenge everything we thought we knew about human history? The questions remain unanswered. As you can see, the story of the Huaylila's mummy isn't just an archaeological mystery. It's a powerful reminder that we still know so little about the planet we live on. Who knows what else lies buried beneath our feet, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to rewrite history? So what do you think? Was this an alien, an unknown life form, or just an ancient medical anomaly? As for me, whatever it is, one thing is certain. This story is far from over. Let's stay tuned and wait for the experts to finally reveal the truth. A 4,000-year-old Chinese tomb reveals chilling rituals. Have you ever imagined that more than 4,000 years ago, when humankind was still struggling to understand the world around them, people in a remote region of northwestern China were already performing rituals so disturbing, even the bravest today might shudder just hearing about them? Well, it's no longer just imagination. An archaeological excavation near the village of Mogu has brought these chilling truths into the open, raw, cold, and almost too eerie to believe. In this area, hundreds of ancient tombs were discovered, scattered across a vast expanse, but not all of them were the same. Among them, archaeologists found a series of particularly haunting tombs belonging to the Chijia people, an ancient culture that once thrived in this region. The most disturbing part? Many of the remains belonged to teenagers, around 13 years old, and they were believed to have died as human sacrifices. Yes, sacrificed. Not victims of disease, not casualties of war, but deliberately taken lives, likely in the name of some religious or spiritual belief. But why were they chosen? Why children? To this day, no one has a clear answer. The deeper researchers dug, the more unsettling the discoveries became. Next to each body was a small hollow, where the ancients had placed handcrafted pottery, believed to be ritual offerings or objects with spiritual significance. What's even more striking is that family members were often buried together, all facing northwest, as if following some mysterious tradition not recorded in any known historical texts. The sacrificed individuals were found in fetal-like positions, their limbs curled, faces turned toward the pottery niches. Were they seeking protection from ancestral spirits, or trembling in fear of an unknown afterlife? In some tombs, experts also discovered necklaces, weapons, and intricately carved pottery, all remarkably well preserved after 4,000 years. These weren't mere decorations. They were living testaments to a complex civilization, one where people were willing to offer lives in service of faith, power, and the elite. The act of human sacrifice is unfortunately not unfamiliar in Chinese history, especially during the Shang dynasty, infamous for its blood-chilling rituals. Records state that when a high-ranking official died, dozens, even hundreds of slaves, prisoners of war, and even women and children would be killed and buried with them, along with dogs, horses, and other animals, to serve them in the afterlife. The more noble the individual, the more people died to follow them into the underworld. A strange kind of glory that at the time was seen as tradition. It's hard to wrap our heads around the brutality of such practices. But thanks to these ancient tombs, we now have a chance to look directly into one of the darkest corners of human history, a time when faith, power, and death were deeply intertwined in terrifying ways. So, would you dare to stare into the empty eye sockets of a 4,000-year-old skeleton? Because behind that silent gaze lies a story still waiting to be uncovered, a story you won't soon forget once you've heard it. As for me, I already have chills just thinking about it. 1,284 mummies beneath Palermo, the creepiest catacomb in Europe. In the heart of the ancient city of Palermo, Sicily, Italy, there is a place so unsettling that even the bravest souls might hesitate to enter. Not because of desolate landscapes or crumbling architecture, but because it holds the silent gaze of over 1,000 mummified bodies lying undisturbed for hundreds of years. Welcome to the Capuchin catacombs, one of the largest and most mysterious mummy collections in all of Europe. Originally, this crypt was reserved exclusively for Capuchin monks, but over time, it expanded to become a burial site not just for clergy, but also for members of the middle and upper classes of society. What makes it extraordinary isn't just the sheer number of preserved bodies, but the way they were preserved. Not simply mummified, but ceremonially prepared in a way that reflects deep beliefs about life, death, and social status in that era. As you step inside the catacombs, you feel transported into another world, a damp, cold, and musty place where death feels almost alive. Along the stone walls lie more than 1,284 mummies, carefully arranged in a variety of positions, some standing, others seated, many resting as if peacefully asleep. Among them are 163 children, and it's this fact that makes the place even more haunting. These mummies aren't just skeletal remains. Many are fully dressed in their original clothing: monk robes, military uniforms, hand-embroidered dresses. Just by looking at their garments, you can often guess what era they lived in, what role they played in society, and even their social class. Men are kept separate from women. Children are not buried alongside adults. Monks are placed in isolation. The layout clearly reflects the strict religious beliefs and social hierarchies of the time. One of the most famous mummies here is Rosalia Lombardo, a little girl who died in 1920 at just 2 years old from pneumonia during the Spanish flu epidemic. Thanks to a proprietary embalming technique by Alfredo Salafia, her body remains nearly intact to this day. Her skin still rosy, her hair soft, and her eyes gently closed as if she's simply sleeping. Many call her the sleeping beauty of the catacombs. And truly, even the toughest hearts are moved, both emotionally and eerily, by her presence. But not all the mummies were preserved with such care. Many other bodies, especially the children, are completely anonymous. No one knows who they were, why they were placed here, or what earned them the honor of being mummified like adults. Some theories suggest they were children of middle-class families, but the exact cause of death and the reason for their preservation remain unanswered questions. Questions that, thankfully, may soon be answered. Dr. Kirsty Squires and a research team from Staffordshire University are now working to unlock these secrets. Using modern technology, they aim to determine the age, gender, and even potential illnesses of the mummified children, hoping to uncover the truth behind these nameless faces resting in the cold earth. As you can see, the Capuchin catacombs are far more than just a creepy mummy museum. They're a living history book, a reflection of how people once viewed death, glory, faith, and immortality. Each mummy tells a story, not through words, but through vacant eyes, frozen postures, and the clothing they chose to wear into eternity. So let me ask you, would you dare to walk through the stone doors and meet the 1,284 gazes from beyond the grave? If so, I'd say a trip to Italy might just be your kind of adventure. A 3,200-year-old trepanned skull unearthed. At an ancient burial ground in eastern Turkey, the dry earth has recently revealed a long-buried secret dating back 3,200 years. It's not a treasure trove of gold and silver, nor a statue of a forgotten deity, but a human skull with a hole drilled into it. Yes, you heard that right. A prehistoric brain surgery that still baffles both archaeologists and medical experts today. This extraordinary find was announced on November 12, 2022, in Van Province, a region in eastern Turkey known for its deep historical layers. During an excavation at an ancient cemetery, a research team led by Dr. Gulan Ayaz from Van Yüzüncü University uncovered this unusual skull. It may well be compelling evidence of a cranial surgery performed with a technique so ancient it likely didn't even have a name back then. Now, you might be wondering, why would someone drill a hole in another person's skull? Well, that's where the story gets fascinating. According to what archaeologists have gathered over the years, cranial drilling, also known as trepanation, was not uncommon in the ancient world. It might have served religious, spiritual, or even medicinal purposes. Some historical sources suggest that people believed drilling a hole could release negative spirits or drive away evil entities from the body of the afflicted. It sounds far-fetched now, but it was a widely held belief across many ancient cultures. On the other hand, some argue it may have been a form of initiation or enlightenment ritual, spiritual procedures intended to bring individuals closer to the divine or the cosmos. Of course, the more medically plausible theory is that trepanation was performed to relieve intracranial pressure, treat head trauma, remove tumors, or even to alleviate migraines. But the toughest question remains: did the person survive the procedure? From a modern scientific perspective, that's not easy to answer. Although the drilled section of the Van skull appears neat and clean, it doesn't necessarily mean the individual survived. Experts note that if the bone around the hole shows no signs of healing, it's highly likely the person died during or shortly after the operation. Let's recall the case of the Incas, which we've explored in many previous studies. This ancient South American civilization performed hundreds of similar procedures, and many patients survived. In 2018, a group of American scientists analyzed hundreds of skulls from Peru, dating from around 400 BCE to the 16th century, and found that evidence of bone healing was the clearest indicator of survival and recovery. However, with the skull found in Van, things remain unclear. There isn't enough data to determine whether the person lived on after the surgery, and it's even harder to say whether the procedure was spiritual, medical, or ritualistic in nature. Perhaps it will remain an unsolved mystery, just one of countless silent questions buried along with human history. Still, this discovery has expanded our understanding of ancient medicine and left us wondering, how far were our ancestors willing to go in their quest to heal or to save the soul? And if you think only modern medicine is capable of operating on the human brain, think again. Over 3 millennia ago, someone took that risk, using primitive tools and fueled by a powerful belief in life, death, and the sacred. Remarkable, isn't it? Sacrificial skeleton, covered in crystals, found in cave. Have you ever imagined that deep beneath the earth, in the cold, dark silence of a flooded cave, there might exist a mysterious world where people once offered up their lives to the gods? This next story takes us to exactly such a place, Smoke-mummified Cave, more commonly and curiously known as ATM, located deep within the Tapir Mountain Nature Reserve in central Belize. But this is no ordinary tourist cave. Inside, archaeologists uncovered one of the most chilling discoveries of the modern era: the skeletal remains of a Maya teenager, entirely encrusted with glittering calcite crystals, shimmering as if cloaked in an ancient curse yet to be revealed. At first, researchers believed the remains belonged to a woman in her 20s, as the skeleton lay on its back with its mouth wide open, as if still screaming from the afterlife. Because of this haunting appearance, the remains were given a striking nickname, the Crystal Maiden. However, upon closer examination, the truth was uncovered. The remains belonged to a 17-year-old boy, sacrificed more than 1,100 years ago. What makes the skeleton even more remarkable are 2 broken ribs, clear signs that death likely came through violent means before the body was thrown to the cave floor, where it lay undisturbed for over a millennium. The crystalline coating over the bones is the result of natural calcification in the damp, mineral-rich cave environment, turning the boy into a vivid monument of the past. And the Crystal Maiden is not alone. Just a few feet away lie 13 other sets of remains, ranging from infants less than a year old to fully grown adults. Each skeleton was found in a different position, some tucked into rock crevices, others lying in open spaces, and some placed beside ancient pottery, musical instruments, stone carvings, and fragments of old jewelry. The ancient Maya believed that deep caves were gateways to Xibalba, the underworld of fear and darkness, ruled by malevolent spirits. To appease these unseen forces, they conducted gruesome sacrificial rituals, choosing the youngest and strongest among them to offer to the gods dwelling in the shadows. But there's more. At Smoke-mummified, archaeologists also found traces of altars, carvings of human faces, animals, and mysterious symbols etched into the stone walls. These artifacts are also encrusted with minerals, almost frozen in time, as if the cave itself had transformed into a natural museum, preserving the final moments of a lost civilization. One detail continues to haunt researchers. The rise in Maya sacrificial rituals coincided with a prolonged and severe drought in the late 9th century, the very period during which the Maya Empire began to collapse. Could the fear of famine, starvation, or divine abandonment have driven people to such despair that they turned to killing their own in hopes of mercy? Today, Smoke-mummified remains one of the most untouched cave systems in the world, where everything lies just as it was left. No glass cases, no barriers. Everything remains raw, bare, and cold. The story of the crystal teenager and the Maya sacrificial cave doesn't just chill the spine. It reminds us of the fragile line between faith and desperation, between humanity and what lies beyond understanding. And to this day, deep beneath the ground in Belize, those mysteries remain unsolved. Most shocking archaeological discoveries, recently unearthed, that left scientists speechless. The 1,600-year-old Maya king's tomb and the bowl containing human fingers and gem-embedded teeth. Have you ever heard the story of a ceramic bowl filled with human fingers? This isn't a horror movie, it's real. The bowl was found deep beneath an ancient Maya pyramid in Guatemala, revealing a chilling story of power, sacrifice, and unsolved mysteries from one of Central America's most glorious civilizations. The story began on May 29, 2024, when the international archaeology community was shaken by a groundbreaking discovery at the foot of the El Diablo Pyramid, located in the ancient city of El Zotz, Guatemala. While excavating a temple dedicated to the sun god, the supreme deity in Maya religion, experts unexpectedly opened a door leading to a nearly perfectly preserved tomb, estimated to be 1,600 years old. As the first light shone into the dark tomb, the team was stunned to find a blood-red bowl inside, containing human fingers and teeth embedded with gemstones, wrapped in decayed layers of leaves. The scene resembled a sacrificial ritual straight out of legend. Imagine this. Inside an ancient pyramid, untouched for thousands of years, lies an object marked by such a horrifying signature. The feeling must be both overwhelming and chilling. But that's not all. Inside the tomb, the archaeologists also found the bones of 6 children, believed to have been sacrificed to accompany the deceased, likely a Maya king or the founder of a dynasty. For the ancient Maya, death was not just an end, but the beginning of a journey to the afterlife, where power and rituals continued. This belief explains the sacrificial customs. The tomb itself is impressive in size, approximately 12 feet long, nearly 6.5 feet wide, and over 3 feet deep, built with great craftsmanship. The walls are painted in red, yellow, and blue, colors still vivid after centuries. Inside, there was precious wood, fabrics, and royal symbols. These details convinced experts that this was the resting place of a highly important figure, possibly the founder of a Maya dynasty. Its mystery is profound. Archaeologist Stephen Houston from Brown University called this tomb an information treasure trove about the ancient Maya, though he noted it will take many years to decode all its secrets. What's particularly remarkable is that the tomb remained completely sealed for 1,600 years, protected by a layer of mud and stone that prevented oxidation, a remarkable preservation technique showing that the Maya were not only skilled architects but also had deep knowledge of natural science. So, from a bowl containing human body parts, we enter a mystical world where death is honored and sacrifice is a ritual to maintain power and religious faith. The Maya civilization is already famous for its history, astronomy, and mathematics, but now it becomes even more intriguing with these blood-soaked spiritual funeral rituals. What do you think about using human fingers and teeth in burial rites? Is it an extreme spiritual belief or a form of control extending even into the afterlife? It's a tough question to answer, isn't it? But I believe that one day soon, experts will help us uncover the truth. The oldest child mummy in Africa. You probably think the oldest mummies in the world come from Egypt, right? Yeah, most of us have heard about the pharaoh's mummies, the mysterious tombs filled with gold and treasures buried deep in the Egyptian desert. But can you believe it? A shocking discovery in Africa has completely overturned everything we thought we knew about the history of human mummification. Back in 1958, an Italian archaeologist named Fabrizio Mori went on an expedition to the remote mountainous desert region in southwestern Libya, right in the heart of the harsh Sahara. A wild, seemingly ordinary place, but who would have guessed it held a secret thousands of years old? Inside a cave called Uan Muhugiag, which used to be home to ancient herders, Mori found rock art depicting animals and humans. You know, similar to the cave paintings in Son Dung Cave we explored in previous videos, or those in Lascaux, France. But what stunned the world wasn't the paintings. Deep inside the cave, Mori came across a strange bundle, and even more surprising, inside that bundle was the mummy of a small child. This mummy, known as Tashwinat, was carefully wrapped in leaves and animal skin, possibly goat or antelope skin. And what's incredible is that the child's body had been mummified with extraordinary precision. Scientists discovered the internal organs had been removed and replaced with herbs, a highly advanced preservation technique previously only known from Egypt. Now you might be wondering, how old is this mummy? The answer will blow your mind. Tashwinot dates back about 5,400 to 5,600 years, meaning it's more than 1,000 years older than the famous Egyptian mummies. This plot twist forced archaeologists and historians to reconsider the entire timeline of ancient mummification. But there's more. What's even more touching is that this child was only about 3 years old and was buried in the fetal position, a symbolic way of returning to the origin, to the cycle of life and death. Of course, that's not all. The Yuan-Muhugyog cave isn't just home to this mummy. The rock paintings also depict animals like elephants, giraffes, and even crocodiles, creatures you definitely won't find in today's Sahara Desert. This reveals a completely different past, that the Sahara was once a fertile land with a rich ecosystem, where people lived very prosperously. This discovery raises a controversial hypothesis. Could the mummification techniques of the Yuan-Muhugyog people have been the precursor, or at least the inspiration, for the Egyptian mummification methods that followed? If true, then the history of Africa, and even human history as a whole, needs to be seriously reconsidered. You could say the Tashwinot mummy isn't just an archaeological find. It's a forgotten piece of human history that opens a door to a civilization buried deep beneath the sands of the Sahara for thousands of years. What do you think about this hypothesis? Were the Egyptians really the first to develop mummification? Or are there ancient civilizations yet to be discovered waiting to tell their stories? Drop your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss together. The Golden Tongue Mummy reveals the secrets of ancient Egypt. If you think the mysteries of ancient Egypt have all been uncovered, get ready to be surprised. In Quesna, a cemetery located in Menouphia Governorate, about 56 miles north of Cairo, Egypt, archaeologists have just announced a stunning discovery: mummies with golden tongues. Yes, you heard that right. Gold plates placed in place of the tongue, revealing the deep beliefs of the ancients about death and rebirth. Over 3 months of excavation, Quesna has become a massive treasure trove of secrets. Besides the golden tongue mummies, the site also contains a rich collection of artifacts. There are clay jars used in funeral rituals, golden scarab and lotus-shaped plaques symbolizing resurrection, and a variety of stone amulets placed beside the deceased, intended to protect them on their journey to the afterlife. This shows how much effort and faith ancient Egyptians invested in the life after death. Archaeologists also uncovered many stone jars dating from the late period of ancient Egypt through the Ptolemaic and Roman eras. This proves that Quesna was not just an ordinary cemetery, but a place preserving the rich evolution of funerary rituals across many eras. It's fascinating how each layer of soil and every artifact here is like an open book telling thousands of years of history, isn't it? However, this discovery comes with some regrets. According to Ayman Ashmawi, head of the Egyptian Antiquities Department, the golden tongue mummies have been severely damaged over time. Nevertheless, the finding of gold sheets covering skeletons and wooden coffins carved in human shapes still amazes researchers. Even copper traces reveal coffin-making techniques, showcasing the skillful hands of artisans from thousands of years ago. Another remarkable detail is the unique architecture of the tombs in Quesna. Instead of the usual solid stone, the ancients used mud bricks for construction. The tombs here typically feature a main hall, 3 arched burial chambers, and notably, a burial vault consisting of 2 adjoining rooms. This structure not only astonishes archaeologists, but also expands our understanding of the diversity in ancient Egyptian funerary architecture. Quesna truly is a living archive of the past. It is not merely a resting place for the dead, but also a vivid testament to cultural exchanges across many dynasties. From burial styles and tomb architecture to funeral rituals, everything reflects the continuous development of Egyptian civilization. What moves people most is realizing that every mummy and artifact found in Quesna is not just a cold relic, but carries a story of faith, of the desire for rebirth, and of a civilization that once shone brightly at the heart of humanity. And who knows, other secrets of Quesna may still be waiting to be revealed beneath the alluvial soil of the legendary Nile River. Do you share my perspective? A coffin leaking red liquid like blood in China, revealing the mystery of a powerful official from the Ming Dynasty. A family, while digging the foundation for their house, discovered a huge stone deep underground. At first, everyone thought it was just an ordinary rock, but when it was removed, the real form appeared. It was an ancient tomb. Ancient tombs aren't rare in China. But what sent chills down people's spines was the coffin inside the tomb, leaking a red liquid that looked just like fresh blood. The family immediately panicked and reported it to the local authorities. Archaeologists and law enforcement quickly arrived at the site. After a period of inspection and excavation, they confirmed the tomb dates back to the Ming Dynasty, more than 400 years ago. But what stunned researchers even more was the design on the coffin. Do you remember the five-clawed dragon we explored in a previous video? In Chinese culture, the dragon symbolizes royal power. However, the five-clawed dragon was reserved exclusively for the emperor. No one dared to use it without permission. Yet, this coffin was carved with a five-clawed dragon, accompanied by a full set of the four divine creatures: dragon, killin, turtle, and phoenix, as well as a pair of phoenixes flying together, the ultimate symbol of royal authority. This raised a big question. Could this be the tomb of an emperor? It didn't stop there. When the coffin was opened, experts were shocked to find two skeletons inside, possibly a married couple, along with many valuable burial items like pearls and precious stones. However, because the red liquid had soaked in over a long time, much of the skeletons were damaged. The mystery gradually unraveled when a stone tablet was found inside the tomb, clearly naming the owner as Mao Jiaofeng, a high-ranking local official called Anfu Shi during the Ming Dynasty. Simply put, an Anfu Shi was a senior official in remote areas where the central government had little control. In these regions, the official was almost like a king, wielding absolute power over the local population. That's why Mao Jiaofeng boldly had the five-clawed dragon carved on his coffin, knowing no one would check a tomb hidden deep in the wilderness. The treasures buried with him were likely gifts from the imperial court during his service. What about the red liquid that looked like blood? Many rumors said it was the deceased's blood leaking out, sparking superstitions about ghosts and the supernatural. But experts explained it was simply water seeping in and dissolving the red paint on the coffin, creating a dark red liquid resembling blood, completely free of any spiritual or supernatural elements. Still, the story of Mao Jiaofeng sends chills down one's spine. A powerful official who managed to crown himself deep in the forest, leaving behind a tomb that has puzzled and sparked debate for years. What do you think? Was Mao Jiaofeng's act brave, ambitious, or a direct challenge to imperial authority? As for me, I can't figure it out. It's just too mysterious and hard to understand. The ice mummy on the Alps summit and the deadly curse that claimed 7 lives. Do you believe that a mummy lying undisturbed for over 5,000 years in the ice could awaken a series of mysterious deaths in modern times? It sounds like fiction, but this is one of the most chilling and controversial archaeological cases in European history, centered around Ötzi the Iceman, a frozen mummy dated to around 5,300 years ago. The story began on September 19, 1991, when 2 German hikers accidentally discovered an ancient human body exposed in the ice on the Ötztal Alps, the border region between Austria and Italy. The body was so perfectly preserved that no one could believe it was a mummy that old. Soon the name Ötzi the Iceman was coined, marking the oldest European mummy ever found. Ötzi was not just skeletal remains. He carried a full set of weapons and survival tools, including a stone axe, an unfinished bow, a leather quiver, and a backpack frame made of pine and oak wood. From these items, archaeologists concluded that he lived during the transition period between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age, roughly 3,200 years before Christ. However, after more than 3 decades, many major questions remain unanswered. What was Ötzi doing on that icy mountain peak? Was it suicide, fleeing from enemies, or part of an ancient sacrificial ritual? No one knows for sure. Even his identity remains unclear. What is known is that Ötzi's death was not simple. He was likely murdered, as an arrowhead was found lodged in his shoulder. Of course, the story doesn't end there. A mysterious series of deaths began to occur among those connected to the Ötzi mummy, sending chills down the spines of researchers. Many believe Ötzi carried a deadly curse, punishing anyone who disturbed his millennia-long sleep. The first victim was Dr. Rainer Henn, a member of the research team. Just 1 year after the shocking discovery, he died in a mysterious car accident while on his way to a conference about Ötzi. Soon after, Kurt Fritz, the mountain guide who led the research team, was buried alive in an avalanche near the site of the mummy's discovery. Then came Rainer Holzel, the documentary filmmaker about Ötzi. Shortly after the film's release, he contracted a strange illness, suffering painfully for months before passing away. The list of victims continued with Helmut Simon, the man who found the mummy. He was swept away by an avalanche shortly after receiving a prestigious award. The story gets stranger. The person who found Helmut Simon's body suddenly died just hours after the funeral. In 2005, the top Ötzi expert, Konrad Spindler, also died under unclear circumstances. The last name on the list is Dr. Tom Loy, who analyzed blood samples on Ötzi's weapons and clothing. He died just before completing the book announcing his research results. In total, at least 7 people directly involved with Ötzi died under unusual circumstances, either accidents or mysterious illnesses. While scientists dismiss the idea of a curse, calling it a series of coincidences, many still believe Ötzi is more than just an ancient mummy. Beneath that ice may lie a restless spirit, or a secret quietly waiting to be uncovered. What about you? Do you believe this is coincidence or a warning from the past? For me, whatever the explanation, the story of Ötzi the Iceman remains one of the greatest mysteries in modern archaeology and will surely continue to fascinate humanity for centuries to come. A 1,500-year-old tomb containing luxurious jewelry with nearly 5,000 precious beads. In 2011, while preparing the site for a modern construction project in Datong City, Shanxi Province, China, once the prosperous capital of the Northern Wei dynasty, a group of archaeologists accidentally touched history by uncovering an ancient tomb buried deep underground. Inside was an exquisitely crafted treasure trove, belonging to a noblewoman named Farong. The name may sound unfamiliar, but wait until you see how Farong amazed the modern world. First, archaeologists confirmed the tomb dated back 1,500 years, right in the final golden age of the Northern Wei dynasty, a dynasty that ruled China for over a century before collapsing in 534 AD. The tomb's owner was identified as the wife of an official named Kui Zhen. According to an inscription on the tombstone, Han Farong, wife of official Kui Zhen. Interestingly, despite the passage of 15 centuries, Farong's skeleton remained neatly positioned inside the coffin, her head resting on a bright yellow pillow. Inside the pillow were 2 bricks engraved with a twisted rope pattern, a distinctive design reflecting Northern Wei cultural heritage. But that was just the beginning. As the excavation team dug deeper, they discovered not just 1, but 3 adjacent tombs, forming a rather complex burial complex. And from there, an overwhelming collection of finely crafted jewelry began to emerge. The first breathtaking find was a pair of gold earrings carved with human faces, possibly influenced by ancient Western or Central Asian cultures. The faces had curly hair, deep-set eyes, and high noses, wearing sequin-patterned necklaces around their necks with delicate lotus flowers beneath, an enchanting blend of legendary Eastern beauty and ancient cross-cultural influence. However, the moment that truly left everyone wide-eyed was the discovery of Farong's legendary necklace. Although the original string had decayed over time, more than 5,000 tiny beads remained perfectly intact, neatly aligned as if preserved by an invisible hand for 15 centuries. Upon restoration, experts were amazed. The necklace contained 10 gold beads, 9 thin gold plates, 2 crystal beads, 42 pearls, and 4,800 minuscule glass beads resembling millet seeds in black and blue, showcasing the pinnacle of craftsmanship of that era. Just imagine, it's chilling. A woman who lived 1,500 years ago adorned herself with jewelry that still astounds both archaeologists and modern jewelers today. Beyond its aesthetic value, the jewelry testifies to the luxury, power, and artistic sophistication achieved during the Northern Wei dynasty. The significance of this discovery lies not just in the gold, gems, or the sheer number of beads, but in the fact that Farong lived at the heart of power, where every political decision of the dynasty was made. Datong was the capital of Northern Wei until 494 AD, and Farong's burial there suggests she was not simply the wife of an official. She belonged to the elite upper class and likely held an important role in the political and social life of her time. People often say, death is the final full stop, but for Farong, death opened a new journey, the journey into history. Through her finely crafted jewelry, every bead, every gold plate, Farong tells her story, not in words, but through the sparkling light of a once glorious civilization. If Farong, a name, a woman, a symbol of timeless beauty that even time itself cannot bury. Doesn't move you? Then I honestly don't know what will. As you can see, every ancient tomb, every artifact buried beneath the ground is like a door opening to the past, a place where people once lived, loved, fought, and left their mark on an entire era. From the tiny beads in Pharaoh's tomb to the 5,300-year-old mummy resting on a cold mountain peak, all of these prove that history isn't just found in books. It's alive right beneath the seemingly lifeless layers of soil and stone. Archaeology isn't just a field of study. It's a journey backward through time, piecing together fragments and rebuilding stories long lost. And it's discoveries as mysterious and spectacular as these that have inspired countless people to become passionate, curious, and driven to keep searching for answers. Do you ever wonder if somewhere beneath your feet lies a hidden historical secret waiting to be uncovered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find this journey of discovery fascinating, don't forget to leave a like and hit subscribe so you won't miss the next exciting stories. For now, goodbye and see you next time.